Beside the obvious reason as to why it's so difficult to be the rarest personality type with extremely high sensitivity, the INFJ HSP experiences a few not-so-obvious struggles that not many other people can relate to in life. Sure, feeling misunderstood and lonely is one thing, but what else challenges this highly sensitive type? Welcome back, Psycho. Before we get into it, have you liked and subscribed to our channel? Go ahead, we'll wait for you. Be sure to click the notification bell while you're there so that you never miss a video. Alright, let's get right into it, starting with number 1. They feel worldly problems to the bone. Ask an INFJ when was the last time they watched the news, and they will probably recall a situation in which they had no choice. In other words, most people with the INFJ personality type steer far away from any type of global news, mostly because they are convinced it's all misleading bogus, which doesn't exactly seem too far-fetched. However, when it comes to the highly sensitive INFJ, mind-bending news reports of suffering and worldly problems can hit them extremely hard in an emotional way. And it's not exactly so easy to recover. Although INFJ HSPs are still prone to taking all reported news with a grain of salt, they can't help but absorb the negative feelings surrounding worldly issues such as war, famine, inequality, and other tragedies. In fact, when they dive into the topic of worldly problems, the highly sensitive INFJ can be left to feel even more guilty and hopeless for not doing enough to change things for the better, something they already struggle with on a daily basis. Number 2. They see through the facade of life. If ignorance is bliss, then intelligence must be torture. Or at least it seems this way at times in the eye of a highly sensitive INFJ. Now, it's not necessarily book smarts that allow this introverted type to see through the matrix of the so-called American dream, but rather their strong intuitive instincts. Most INFJ HSPs can probably recall a few childhood memories where they didn't accept the meaning of things at face value, such as religious stories, for example, while everyone around them acts as if they truly understand how and why certain religious stories came about. INFJ HSPs are left feeling unsettled with so many burning questions, most of which they figure probably can't be answered. This struggle goes for much more than religion, however. In fact, most highly sensitive HSPs find difficulty in conforming to things like a 9-to-5 job concept and questionable gender roles. Number 3. They easily get overwhelmed by suffering of any kind. INFJ highly sensitive people have an uncontrollable level of empathy towards any situation that involves suffering, similar to the reasoning behind their hesitancy to dive into worldly issues. The highly sensitive INFJ can feel the suffering of others as if it's their own, whether it's everyday life scenarios such as being incredibly moved by the words written on the sign in the hands of a less fortunate panhandler, or actively feeling the feelings of the characters in the movie they're watching. INFJ HSPs find themselves consumed in the emotional aspects of all suffering. Their minds automatically resort to placing themselves in other people's shoes to fully understand the emotions from their perspective. This can definitely be a good thing when surrounded by positive energy. However, tragedy and immorality can definitely make this trait incredibly difficult at times, which brings us to the next INFJ HSP difficulty. Number 4. They don't necessarily enjoy their supernatural gifts. We have to remember people did not choose the INFJ HSP life. The INFJ HSP life chose them. And although it's not that highly sensitive INFJs doesn't eventually learn to use their unique empathetic and delicate nature to their benefit, but when they're stuck in a situation where they really need to turn off their energy-absorbing tendencies and can't, all of a sudden these intuitive gifts seem like a true nightmare. For the INFJ HSP, they do not have to carry around their own deep feelings, but that of others around them. If their spouse comes home stressed, they will automatically begin feeling stressed as well, even if their day was going just fine. It's not only exhausting, but it can certainly be annoying to feel out of control of their own emotions. Number 5. They can feel physically ill from their sensitivity. Not all INFJ HSPs have the ability to feel the physical feelings of others. However, some are able to feel suffering to the point of experiencing pain in their own bodies, where they witness someone else getting hurt. Also known as a physical empath, some people with this sensitive personality type can expect things like pain in their temples when beside someone complaining about a migraine, for example. Yet, aside from that, highly sensitive INFJs can become so consumed by the stress of others that they begin to feel physical symptoms of stress as a result. In fact, this tendency to take on physical stress is one of the main factors that make setting boundaries for this type so crucial. Tying into number 6, they have to make difficult choices to maintain their sanity. Whether it's moving away from home at an early age, cutting off contact with intrusive family members, or leaving seemingly enjoyable relationships, the highly sensitive INFJ focuses on maintaining their mental and emotional sanity by making sure their immediate surroundings are in line with their energy at all times. In fact, most INFJ HSPs learn this lesson the hard way, usually getting taken care of for their natural caretaking empathy a few times here and there through adolescence and early adulthood. Mature INFJ HSPs will make some of the hardest and unexplainable decisions for the sake of proper boundary setting. While it may not always be understandable for the outside looking in, they usually have a method behind their madness, and it's almost always to maintain their mental and emotional equilibrium. Number 7, they don't have the energy required to have a social life. The question is not, does the highly sensitive INFJ have a social life? It's, are they even able to have a proper social life if they tried? Well, although high sensitivity comes with a spectrum where no two high sensitive INFJs are the same, every INFJ HSP requires a substantial amount of R&R to optimally function and to feel like themselves. For most people with this personality type, the thought of spending time with other people after a long week of involuntarily socializing seems obscure, as they've been waiting patiently for their peace and quiet in solitude. However, even though this type enjoys their alone time, it's not like they necessarily choose to be this way. In fact, being in high reception mode day in and day out, constantly absorbing the energy and information of others around them, quite literally requires energy. If they spend their time with uplifting people, however, they may have a fighting chance at achieving that balance of human connection and solitude. And number 8, they can resort to serious self-isolation. Speaking of finding that perfect balance of human connection and solitude, this sensitive introvert can resort to complete isolation when in need of a break from their involuntary empathetic duties. The accumulation of emotional, mental, and physical emotion that most INFJ HSPs experience can come to a halt when they distance themselves from all contributors. However, this defense mechanism can feel so relieving that it can be difficult to step back into the real world. With most of their symptoms and difficulties being automatically overlooked and not taken seriously, sometimes this highly sensitive type can feel most like themselves in the presence of nobody but themselves, and that comfort can become awfully addicting. Well, that's it for today, Psychos. Comment down below if you related to these struggles of being a highly sensitive INFJ. Don't forget to leave us a like, share this video with your friends, and also subscribe to our channel for more Psycho videos.